Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Man podcast. My name is Rory Paquette. You guys all know that already. I don't even know why I say that anymore. You guys all know who I am. You're a very grateful host. Folks, I want to thank you so much. Ever since we made the move to 5 days a week, you folks have just absolutely turned out in huge numbers. Our numbers have gone up since we made that move. And you've basically said, hey, you can't get enough of what we're doing here. And I know it's not because of me. So it must be because of the fantastic men that I'm bringing on this program, much like the gentleman we have on here today. You guys are going to absolutely love his story. Some of it is almost unbelievable. This guy's been through it. So you've heard my stories, and they're nothing compared to what this gentleman's been through. So I hope that you enjoy that, and it's because of these men that I keep bringing on the program that I know you guys are tuning in and you're getting inspiration and you're going out there and you're fighting your own battles, fighting your own for your own lives, and all trying to be better men tomorrow than we are today. I mean, isn't that what it's all about? Before we get going, if you're friends of the program, and I know you are, you know what we got to do. We got to pay a couple of bills. So let me take a sip of my what? My preferred beverage. Oh my goodness. Man, just got a new hot cup too, real quick before I jumped on this one. Guys, you all know what this is. That's right. It's Freedom Hill Coffee at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Look them up. You know what they do. It's deep, dark, rich, bold, and beautiful, just like my wife. They brew a mean bean. They do a great job. It's a mean cup of Joe. They do all the right things for all the right reasons, and they support veterans, which is why we support them. You all know how important veterans are here at the Power of Man podcast. So celebrate all that, celebrate them, and go check these guys out. Freedom Hill Coffee at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram, and tell them Power Man sent you. That's right. Okay. Now, let me get one more sip of that. I'm going to have to keep up with this guy. I can already tell he's going to outrun me.
Was just writing down Freedom Hill Coffee so that later on I'd be able to go check them out.
I appreciate that. All right.
Yeah.
I love an endorsement right off the bat. I haven't even introduced him yet. Here we go. This is the show we have for you today, folks. Please welcome to the podcast motivational speaker, soon to be author, which we're going to find out about, a little sneak peek, coach and consultant, Sig Muller. How you doing, Sig?
Fantastic. Great to be with you today, Rory.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. To say that you have one heck of a story is an understatement and a half. Um, Tell everybody a little bit about who you are. Maybe we should start with, what your movement is. We can, of course, come back to it, and you're going to tell us like why it happened and whatnot. But just give us a brief idea of, who Sig is.
Yeah. So I had a 30-year corporate career working for big giant companies, places like General Mills, Mayo Clinic, United Health Group, six, seven different startups. And throughout all that, I was building and growing businesses, whether it was a big giant company or a small company. It was about building and growing businesses. And I was, I'd say, semi-retired. I was doing a little bit of consulting, helping businesses start and grow that were startups. And then August 23rd, 2024 happened, which this Friday will be 30 weeks ago. And I do think in weeks now because every week is precious. And I think for the rest of my life, I will be able to tell you how many weeks it was from that date. That's the day I died and had a sudden cardiac arrest. And as you called it, started the movement. For me, it's my mission. And that's really to help others be the world's best version of themselves. Because I do believe within each of us is the power, talent, and capacity to be the world's best. And that means different things to different people. We don't always do it, right? Some days I'm crappy Sig. I don't like crappy Sig. I don't think you like crappy Rory, right? And those
Right.
around us don't like us when we show up that way.
That's for sure.
But how do we do the things we need to be the world's best version of ourselves? Not just for us, but for our friends, our family, our coworkers.
That's wonderful. I mean, I love the idea already, and we're going to come back to that for sure and talk about it. You kind of threw that down there for everybody, like I had a feeling you were gonna. You said, "Well, that's the day I died."
Yeah.
I know that's kind of the story. Sig, tell everybody what happened.
Yeah. So if you're a faithful believer, I think there were some God incidences, guardian angel moments that led up to my survival. And when we go through life, it's just life. Life flows, life happens. We don't necessarily realize it in the moment. But I'm here today because life is not a coincidence, and I'm very blessed. And I'll maybe back into some of those. But August 23rd, 2024, I had a sudden cardiac arrest and died. I had been golfing with a group of friends from General Mills that I worked with 30 years before. Salt of
Wow.
the earth guys. It was 12 of us, three foursomes golfing. Pretty remote area in the Twin Cities, just west of Lake Minnetonka, if you're familiar with the area. And I decided that that would be a bad place to have a heart attack. A cardiac arrest would be the golf course, right?
That's the worst place to have one. I mean,
You
really.
know, yeah. Well, so here's the first God incidents I'm going to share with you. I left General Mills to go to work for a company called Survival Inc. Survival Inc. invented and pioneered automated external
Oh, geez.
the thing that would save my life
Wow.
25 years later. And I led business development and marketing for them. So we helped put defibrillators in the first police cars, the first airlines, the first golf courses. You likely have one at your company if you work in the corporate world. And at the time, it's just a job, right? These are my friends from General Mills. This is the job I went to. And you look back on that and say, wow, it's the same people, from General Mills that I left that company to go to work for Survival. And all these people knew that I had that history of working in an AED company.
Yeah.
Fast forward 25 years to 2 weeks before my cardiac arrest, someone put together a reunion of the defibrillator company.
Oh, get
Two
out of
weeks
town.
before. I hadn't seen these people in 20 years. And we're high-fiving each other, we're chest bumping, celebrating. We've saved tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of lives. We've been part of that. Pretty cool. And on the day that I died on the golf course, catching up with the guys, half of them are out of town and retired, half live in town. The out of town people you don't see very often. So we're just catching up. These are guys who we were there for the birth of all of our children. You know, the guy who gave me CPR, I was the first one in the hospital, besides obviously his wife, uh, for the birth of both his children.
My goodness.
And
These
30
are
years
these
later,
are
he gives
friends
me
of yours then. I mean, these are
CPR.
good friends of yours.
So yeah, these are best friends in the world, salt of the earth, known them for 30 years, people where we've been through wars together.
Yeah.
One of them coined the phrase 30 years ago, hey man, you got to give along to get along, and I'm willing to give you a lung. And on that day, they did. They did. Um,
Wow.
Golf was great. I'm not a good golfer, not a good
Golf.
golfer. So I get a lot of strokes. Okay. But we were actually two things were happening that weekend. The 12 of us play fantasy football together. So we were there for the draft, August 23rd, draft weekend for fantasy football.
Oh, geez.
And so we did the draft in person, right? And that was going to be Sunday, not Friday. So they had to postpone the draft and wait till I was, alive and coherent again. So we didn't have the draft that weekend. Um, and then we do this golf cup called the Ryder Cup. It's our version of the Ryder Cup, and it's competitive with the 12 of us. Um, and that was a good day. Later that night, we were on the other side of town in South St. Paul at friend's house, Paul, and all the same 12 people with spouses and significant others at that point. That's where I had my cardiac arrest.
Oh, wow.
Um, I was sitting at an outdoor bar by a pool, chatting with the guys, and Paul was across the bar from me, realized something was off. And I don't remember anything for going forward for a few days after this. So I've heard about this from others. He walked around the bar and caught me when I had my cardiac arrest so I didn't fall on the ground. He got his
Wow.
wife, and he and his wife gave me CPR mouth to mouth. And the odds of living and walking out of the hospital after cardiac arrest are about 8%. and the odds of me being physically and mentally okay, less than 1%. So I'm pretty blessed to still be here today.
There's no way that any of that is an accident. I mean, to say God had a hand in all of that,
Yeah,
period. My
yeah,
goodness, at your friend's house.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, even that, if that doesn't happen there, where there's all these people who are there for you to the point where
yeah,
they catch you before you hit the ground,
yeah,
and they're all, diving in, giving you CPR and doing whatever they have to do to help you, you're probably not talking to me today.
for sure, for sure. One
Amazing.
of my big takeaways when I talk with people is learn CPR if you don't know it. And it can be the hands only version, right? You don't have to do the mouth to mouth if you're uncomfortable with that, but learn CPR. And whether it's a stranger or friend, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Paul was the one that wound up giving me mouth to mouth. His wife gave me CPR, the chest compressions, and it's kind of humorous. And you have to be able to look back and I don't know, make light of or feel good about what was really a horrible, horrible situation, right? So imagine, there's a group of, geez, I suppose there were probably 25 people there at that point, 12 plus significant others. You know, I just basically died in front of them and they're giving me CPR. One person ran down the block to make sure the ambulance and first responders were going to get to the right place. Another person stood out front of the house to make sure they came around back because minutes matter. Minutes matter.
Yeah.
Every minute your heart's not restarted, your odds of living decrease 10%. So time really matters. And Kim, who was giving me the chest compressions, this is the part that makes me smile, is in what this horrible situation is, she starts singing the song, the Bee Gees song, Staying Alive. Okay. And
I'm
reason
sorry.
for that,
Oh my gosh.
it's awesome. It's awesome. And the reason for it is when she learned CPR, it's a song that has a beat of between 100 and 120 beats per minute.
Oh my
And it's
goodness.
the rhythm to do the compressions to. So imagine this horrible situation. And there's this person singing a very optimistic song. I won't sing for you because I'm not a good singer, but she's singing, doot, 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 staying alive, staying alive. Whether you're a brother, whether you're a mother, you're staying alive. I mean, wonderful. Love that optimism. And I don't know if it was
Wow.
intended for optimism, but
That's just that. I mean, every piece of the story so far. I mean, you started the whole thing with golfing was good. So, so I had a feeling it was going to go kind of this way, but now in your bio, it said that you were deceased for 8 minutes. I
that's the only thing that restarts your heart after a cardiac arrest is a defibrillator. And the paramedics got there. Remember, your cardiac arrest, unlike a heart attack, your blood's not flowing. So the paramedics got there and think Home Depot drill. It's not, it's a fancy drill that the paramedics have. They drilled two holes into my shin. Why? Because they deliver the drugs you need into your bone marrow. That's the only way your body will absorb them when your blood is not circulating.
oh my goodness.
Yeah. And they had a defibrillator and restarted my heart.
I don't suppose you sold them the defibrillator, did you?
No, it was long, long ago. I think the company had been bought two times uh,
I mean, the way this
since
story's
then.
going, I just assumed that you were the salesman also and sold the defibrillator
Oh,
that saved your life because this whole thing is almost surreal. I can't even imagine being the guy going through it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't remember, um, probably 5 minutes before my cardiac arrest, and I have no memory of the first 2 to 3 days in the intensive care unit of the hospital. So my
Wow.
two friends went with me, Paul, who'd give me the CPR, and another friend, to the hospital. And I later would ask him, I would thank them. I'd say, thank you for going with me when I learned they had. And, why'd you go with me? And they said a few things. They said, um, it wasn't your day to die. We love you. And if you were going to die, we weren't going to let you die alone. Pretty remarkable friends. Um,
Yeah.
I woke up in the hospital the next day. That was Friday night at, I think, 5:30, 6 o'clock. Woke up the Saturday morning. I'd been intubated. They took out the tube around lunchtime. And I could talk just like I'm talking now. I could have conversations with people, but I had what they call anterograde amnesia, meaning I couldn't make new memories. So everything before my cardiac arrest, golfing, friends, family, life where I'd worked, perfect memory. But if I met you, Rory, because you came into the hospital room, I'd have no idea. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So, Rory, if you were my phlebotomist, you were coming in every hour drawing my blood for 2 days. You'd
Okay.
you'd come into the room, and I'd say, "Hi, what's your name?" Rory. Rory, you are the world's best. You draw my blood. You were really good at it. You didn't have to poke me like 10 times. You draw my blood, and I'd say, "You're the world's best." And I would say this to you probably 20 times while you were in the room for those 5 minutes to draw my blood. You'd come back the next hour, and it was like Groundhog Day, right? I'd ask you again, what's your name? Rory, you're the world's best. Everyone, all the doctors, all the caregivers, whoever came into the room, and I remember I wasn't even aware I did this. I had no memory. And I learned about this from my sister Maria, other family members, and my caregivers that I had been doing this. So the second thing I was telling people, and you and I talked about this briefly, was um, I told everyone that came in the room, don't give me clopidogrel. Clopidogrel's Plavix. And so why did I say that? Well, about 10 years before, was working at Mayo Clinic and had helped start and spin out a pharmacogenomic company. So, pharmacogenomic company is a test that helps you understand how the genes in your body interact with drugs, whether you process them okay or not. So I had taken this pharmacogenomic test 10 years before and learned that my body didn't process clopidogrel, Plavix, the right way. And keep in mind, I was messed up. I knew something was really, really wrong. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know I had a cardiac arrest. I just knew something bad had happened to me and wasn't aware of my surroundings. But whoever came in
Yeah.
that room said, don't give me clopidogrel because the odds of you having another cardiac event, if you don't process it the right way, are 3 to 4 times greater. So I had
Wow.
the presence of
Yeah.
mind to say this. I think another God incidence.
Yeah. Obviously, since you had no idea you were even really saying it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
insane. How long did the amnesia part of this last?
You know, 100% of the amnesia was between 2 and 3 days, where I have no memory of those 2 to 3 days. The only thing I know about is what people told me. And, keep in mind the odds of me being physically and mentally okay, and some of my good friends still give me a hard time and question whether I'm mentally okay today. But I assure you I am. But for my family, they're watching this and they don't know if this is the new Sig, right? If this is a
Right.
permanent thing and way I'm going to be. By the third day, I started to remember things, and I was in the hospital 7 days, and it probably took a few weeks to get to a place where I felt like I remembered 100% of the things. But it happened, so that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Now, did you know when you were saying you're the world's best, you're the best? When you were
Yeah,
saying that to people, was that something that was a thing of yours prior to that, or was that where it just came out and you were saying that
yeah,
that's sort of where it
yeah.
was invented?
That was the genesis of it right
Really?
there. But, in the weeks after my hospital stay, I'm asking myself, why am I still here? Why am I alive? And what am I meant to do? And I
Right.
had a lot of things to reflect on. And one of the things I asked myself, and keep in mind, all the gaps are being filled in by people. So I'm learning more, every week from people about what I did and putting that together with the rest of my life before that I could remember. And I asked myself, why did I tell everyone you are the world's best? Right? Why the heck was I saying that? And I could think of a few reasons. Um, my father was born and raised in Panama. He was an immigrant to the US, and he brought us up with the idea of work hard, always do your best. have faith, have a good faith, and just be your best, try your hardest. So I was had that foundation growing up. I think the other reason was, I was a D1 athlete, swimmer. I was a state champ and All-American in high school.
Awesome.
And the doctors actually would later tell me that part of why I'm okay is my body was trained early on to deal with oxygen deprivation better.
Oh, get out of
So
town.
another thing in my life that happened that maybe was a reason I was okay. So kind of crazy. But, I was this awesome athlete. And my career bit from a business standpoint, I was a leader of teams, always able to take care of myself and take care of others. I'm laying in that hospital bed. I couldn't do anything for myself. Nothing. Zero. And I think it was my way of expressing gratitude and thanking people. It's just a fancy way of saying, you're great, you're fantastic, I appreciate you. I just said it with the words, you are the world's best. A funny story, true story. My sister told me this one. And I think, given your audience, I think this story will be okay with them.
Okay.
Um, so remember, I couldn't do anything,
Right.
including go to the bathroom. So the nurse would come
Right.
in and help me go to the bathroom. And I don't know, Roy, in the history of mankind, there's been five poops that are the world's best poops. I don't know if you've heard this story before. Only five.
I have not heard this one, no.
And I had one of them, and I'm going to tell you about it. So the nurse, this is in my first 2 days. She comes in, helps me go to the bathroom, and I look at her and I tell her, "You are the world's best," while she's helping me poop. So then she
All right.
proceeds, well, I can't do anything. Then she proceeds to wipe me, right? Clean me up. And I look at her. I look at her and I go, that was the world's best wipe.
Okay.
I was in the room to recount all this. And then I look around after she wipes me with great satisfaction. And I say to myself and anyone listening, I say, that was the world's best poop. No idea I was saying that. So the second reason I think I was telling, or the third reason
Wow.
I think I was telling people the you are the world's best, right? Was I became my own hype man, right? I needed to motivate and inspire people despite how screwed up I was. I knew I needed the doctor, the nurse, my friends, family, everyone to be the world's best version of themselves. For me, the surgeon who was going to put in my implantable cardio defibrillator. If I was going to be okay, and keep in mind, I didn't know how messed up I was or what was really wrong, but I did know I needed everyone who came in that room to be positive and to be the world's best version of themselves so that I would be okay. So as I reflected, I think that's why I said it. And that's part of what, why it became my mission to help others be the world's best version of themselves.
I mean, that's clearly you're being given a message here, but I can also understand that. I mean, if you just you were gone for 8 minutes, brother. So if you come back and you think that's the best poop you ever had in your whole life, you know what? I think you have every right in the world to scream that from the rooftops. So, I mean, I think it's relative. I think you're
Yeah,
justified.
it tragedy and catastrophic event can put things in a different perspective.
My goodness, it is telling that you just like you hadn't really used this phrase before, and then here you are with an amnesia that doesn't allow you to remember that you keep using it,
Yeah,
and that's the phrase that keeps coming into your mind over and over and over that you keep using. So it's
yeah,
clearly coming from somewhere else.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I mean that's the whole thing is amazing, all the way down to if those people aren't doing all that CPR for you, then obviously all of this is moot. But the way it happened, the people there, the whole 9 yards, I mean, you can't make this up at this point.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you're, it's hard to say. So what do you take from this? Clearly, you took from it that you had a mission for be the world's best. I mean, how else though? I mean, aside from the movement, which we'll get to here in a second, I know
yeah,
your mission. Um,
Yeah.
how does that impact the rest of your life?
Yeah. Good question. So I'm a father. I have two sons. My eldest son is now 25 and he lives in Billings, Montana. He's in medical school there and an avid outdoorsman. He hunts, he fishes. I didn't. So everything I've learned about those sports and done is with him as the leader.
Cool.
He's my Sherpa.
Very cool.
So about 2 months before, I'm out fly fishing in Montana with him on, some of the world's best fly fishing rivers in the world. And he brought his pastor with us. And his pastor says, and his name is Sig also. So he says to the Sigs, he says, have you ever heard of the book or podcast called 4,000 Weeks? Like, nope, never heard of it. Tell us about it. And 4,000 weeks, he shares, is how long you have to live when you're born. It's about 80 years is 4,000 weeks. Sounds really short when you put it in weeks, doesn't it?
Really does. Yeah.
Yeah. And that I was there to fly fish. So that kind of went in one ear, out the other ear. Okay, nice, thanks, good story. Um, but as I'm recovering and thinking about my mission, um, that came back to me. That came back to me. And it made me realize how precious life was. And keep in mind, I didn't know if I had a day to live, a week to live. I don't know today if I got another year or this crazy thing might happen again, right? The doctors say I'm fine and going to be fine, knock on wood. Um, but I put a stake in the ground because I think I had a choice to curl up in a ball in the fetal position and just worry the rest of my life and not interact with the outside world, or the stake in the ground I chose was my mission, which we've talked about of helping others be the world's best. But it was I'm gonna live 1,000 weeks, 1,000 weeks. I picked that because it sounded like a good amount of time. It's about 20 years. I'm 59. My father, God bless him, is 95 and still doing well.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I'll be so lucky.
Yeah.
But I can do a lot in 1,000 weeks or 20 years. And it creates a sense of urgency and purpose in a different way. You think about 20 years, every year is 5% of that time, 5% of what you have left. So that's, 20 summers, 20 Christmases, 20 Easters, 20 family reunions annually, whatever your jam is, 20 years, you got everyone's 5% of
Yeah.
what you have left. And so I now have what I call the 5% rule, which is, you know, 5% of a day. So think about that. One day is 24 hours. Maybe you only work 14 hours, right? Because 10 hours you're sleeping and doing other stuff. I don't know. But if you have something that's really important to you in life,
Yeah.
dedicate 5% every day to that. If, of 24 hours, 5% is 72 minutes. Of 14 hours, it's 42 minutes. So if something's really important to you and you enjoy it, and it's something that over time you have to spend time to accomplish it, dedicate 5% to it. We all have that amount of time. So,
I mean, that's a very unique perspective
yeah.
on that. Are you ever concerned that you're putting an end date on it?
Oh, that's not a hard end date. That's just, I'm going to carry on my mission of helping others to be the world's best version of themselves till I'm 79, God willing,
There you go.
right? But hey, the mission can be extended,
Okay.
you know, but it's not next week, it's not next year,
Right.
it's way out there, and it's go time.
I love the premise behind it because, you're giving value to the minutes that we take for granted, where we sort of sit around and don't do something, or we just say, oh, I'll just sit here and wait.
Yeah.
And you're basically saying, I mean, I'm hearing it loud and clear. I'm sure everybody listening to this is you're quantifying how important every minute is, according to what's left in our lives. And most of us who are listening to this right now have, more in our rear view than we do, in our front view. So, I mean, we're all dealing with the same thing where we all kind of feel like we're running out of time, just in general. But I mean, you got faced with that, and That's a very unique way to look at it. I've never heard anybody break it down like that.
Fly fishing, with the pastor, I probably wouldn't have. I would have known about 4,000 weeks. Let's make that 1,000. Um, for those listening that are fishermen, fly fishermen, I caught the Montana trifecta out there, which is it was my first time really seriously fly fishing. I caught a Yellowstone cutthroat trout, a rainbow trout, and a brown trout. So
Okay.
that was the Montana trifecta.
That's a thing. Okay. All
That's a
right.
thing. Yeah.
I'm not a fisherman at all, but I
Yeah.
mean, if my son ever asked me to go, I would go in a heartbeat. So
Yeah.
it was, I know how that my son actually taught me how to shoot.
There you
So
go.
I get the concept, but,
Yeah.
so, all right. So you're valuing every day. You're looking at your future very differently. How does it impact, things like your personal relationship with, in terms of your marriage and kids?
Good question. And I don't always go there on podcasts because people don't necessarily always ask. 2024 was a pretty eventful year. Not only did I die, but earlier in the year, my wife and I got divorced. We were married for 28 years.
Oh goodness, I'm so sorry.
So, yeah, no, it's behind, and you move forward positively. Not a preferred outcome, right, for any of us
Right,
in a marriage. Um, but you can look back and hopefully understand, why move forward in a positive way. So out of it did come some really good things. My younger son wound up living with me. And so we've had some really good quality time together to bond and for me to still be a parent and him to be part of this journey a little bit. Um, my son in medical school, he flew in Friday night, got there Saturday morning in the hospital to see me. And I joke he was like a Doogie Howser for anyone that knows that TV
right.
reference.
Child doctor,
Here,
absolutely.
here's his second year med student consulting with the actual doctors to make sure his dad was going to be okay. So I would say it's deepened my relationship with my boys quite a bit, this event. Um, my friends as well, and my faith. And so one of the things I talk about a lot is the attitude of gratitude. Um, and that's really about sharing with others you're the world's best. You think about, Rory, when's the last time someone said to you, and I'm going to say it at the end, you're the world's best. Or maybe their own words, right? You're fantastic, you're great, good job. We don't hear that often enough in life. And how often do we say to others, good job, I appreciate you, that was fantastic, you're awesome, whatever your words are.
Right.
And I think in today's society, we all need to hear that more often. And so one of my challenges to people is to embrace the attitude of gratitude and say it in your own way. I make a point daily of telling people, and I say it, you're the world's best. And it has to be genuine and true. And for me, that is now. People still kind of look at me, but it's cool how they smile after I say it. I was in line at a coffee shop about a month ago here in Minnesota. It was 20 below zero. And I'm in the line of the coffee shop inside next to two police officers. And I just struck up a conversation with them. I said, hey, you know, being a police officer's got to be a really tough job. It's got to be even harder when it's 20 below outside. And they chatted with me and they kind of said, yeah, it is a lot harder when it's 20 below. Here's some things that, are more challenging. And I listened, and this is, 2-minute conversation. And I looked at him and I said, thank you for all you do in our community. You both are the world's best. I appreciate you. And to see the smile, they're smiling just like you were, Rory, the big smile. It's awesome. And it makes a difference for you personally, but for the lives you're able to touch and give them a just a super positive thing to think on and reflect on that hopefully carries forward.
It's a great way to live, Sig.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
is. Okay. Well, just so I don't, overstep and put my foot in my mouth again, let's,
It's okay.
and I certainly hope I didn't offend you with that one. I just, wanted to ask and see. I'm very glad to hear that about your boys. I think that's if nothing else came of this, that alone would be, a fantastic end to the story. So very glad to hear that. I have two boys myself, so I'm feeling that hard when you said that. Um, let's talk about your mission. Talk about the
Yeah.
mission itself, because it's not just about saying it to the policeman in line. You're trying to you're spreading the word far and wide
Yeah.
about be the world's best. Tell us about your mission and what you're doing about your business.
Yeah, for sure. So in the corporate world, I spoke plenty. We're launching this new product to the sales force, we're acquiring this company, whatever it was. So I was, really familiar with speaking in the corporate world. But as I reflected on, I want to help others be the world's best version of themselves. How am I going to do that? Because I do believe each of us has the power, capacity, and talent within us to be the world's best version of ourselves every day. And what gets in the way a lot can be attitude. And statistically, we have between 6,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day in our brain. 6,000, 60,000 thoughts. Now, interestingly, and this will probably get a chuckle from the guys listening, and maybe the women in your audience too. Men are closer to the 6,000 thoughts a day. Women are closer to the 60,000 thoughts a
I
day. And
knew
this
you were
is
going to
true
go there.
research. Yeah, true research. And unfortunately, for both, 85% of the thoughts are negative. 85% of the thoughts are negative, and 95% of those thoughts are repetitive. Crazy.
Hmm.
So our attitude is fighting against us. It's the attitude of, I can't, I won't. Earlier, you were talking about doing it tomorrow, mañana, right? These are all negative thoughts. So by adopting the attitude of gratitude, you can flip that switch in a positive way. And have more positive thoughts, less negative thoughts. And so now through my speaking, I speak professionally to companies and teams, faith groups, church groups, um, membership, fraternal organizations, that type of stuff, about being the world's best. And what does it take to do that? And I want to help people not only inspire them, but give them the tools and challenge them to start being the world's best version of themselves every day. And it means something different for everyone, right? That's a very
Sure.
personal thing. But it's good for you, it's good for everyone around you, and you can change your little slice of the world. Um, so I do a lot of speaking now, I do a lot of podcasting, but I really want to reach. If I could look back in 20 years, 1,000 weeks, 970 weeks from now, and say I've taught, I haven't put a number on it, but I've helped uh, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, maybe millions of people. But, it's one step at a time to make an impact.
I love that. So it sounds like you've been called to do this at this point, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. It's my mission.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the attitude of gratitude is. I mean, it's a great idea. It's great in theory. I love it, and I know that you'll never find anybody who would protest that with you and try and say, "Oh, no, 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 that's the bad idea." But we all know that those numbers that you just gave out,
Yeah.
man, they feel like they're right. They feel like they're right. And
Yeah.
when you sit here and go, wow, really? I mean, they're negative thoughts. I have that many thoughts and that many of them are negative. And then you go, that, that feels right. Unfortunately, it's kind of a punch in
Yeah.
the gut, but it does kind of hits home.
Yeah.
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 And if that feels right, then obviously we aren't living that way. So, I mean, let me ask you this in terms of the mission. Um, how does the average guy who's out there, grinding away, he doesn't have a story like you've got, for instance, which was just the biggest wake up call you could possibly get ever, right? Guy who's out there grinding, he's got his wife, his kids, he's trying to keep his marriage together. He's paying way too much for everything, not making enough.
Yeah.
His thoughts are negative, 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 and he's fighting hard against that. How does that guy move or shift into the attitude of gratitude? How does he start changing that mindset?
Yeah. So I'll give you a couple of thoughts. I do this exercise called take a pulse check. And the idea of a pulse check is just close your eyes, and people can do this now if they're listening. Put your hands on your heart and just take a deep breath all the way in and all the way out and relax. Then you can ask yourself this question. And if you have a pen while you're listening to this, you can write it down. What am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? Simple enough question, you know? Um, and then how am I going to show that gratitude? How am I going to show that gratitude
Hmm.
in a genuine fashion? So that's one simple thing you can do. The second pulse check I like people to do, and I've been asking this as I write my book. So I've collected already about 50 answers from people. And if anyone listening wants to send me their answer, that'd be cool. Um, but I ask people, what does it take to be the world's best version of yourself? So Rory, what does it take for you to be the world's best Rory?
Wow.
And I say only give me, 2 sentences, 3 sentences. And if you understand what
Yeah.
it means to you, is it your faith? Is it your family? Is it being courageous? I have a lot of people say, I have to have the courage to be the world's best version of myself. And it's going to mean something different to everyone out there. But if you can start by just asking yourself, take the pulse check and ask yourself, what does it take to be the world's best version of myself? And showing up for your wife, your coworkers, doing homework with your son. It could be a lot of things, but try to net it down to two, three things, and then say, how can I make that um, actionable?
Hmm.
Right?
That could
This
be
is what it
that could be a
means.
long list, man.
Yeah. That's why I say make it two, 3 sentences. They can be big, big things. At the end of the day, when you put your head down, what does it mean for you to have been the world's best version of yourself that day or tomorrow? What is it going to mean to be the world's best version of yourself? I had to laugh. Um, Somebody sent me a response today, and they do contracting for the government. And so they talked about their job and contracting with the government. But then they said, and but this morning, my dog threw up on the carpet. And so the this morning, I was the world's best at cleaning up dog vomit. And his point was, and he went on, but his point was that you show up for whatever life, deals you, and you have a great attitude, and you do your best at whatever that is, and try and be positive about it. I mean, I can't imagine if my dog threw up and I had to clean it up. I probably would throw up cleaning up my dog's barf. But he had such a great attitude about such a silly thing.
Right.
Um, so, ask yourself, what does it take to be the world's best version of yourself? And then how are you going to do it?
That's a great action plan. I like that a lot. That's like exactly what I was looking for. What can someone actually start to do?
Yeah,
I'm feeling dog vomit story, of course, because that's part of my division of labor in the house. It's my wife takes care of a ton, but if the dog throws up, there isn't any question about who's cleaning it up. It's
right.
it's
And
right here.
and how you show up to do that, Rory, right, is not only going to impact you, but your kids and your wife. And it can ruin a day, or it can make the day better, or at least not derail it.
No, as funny as that is, talking about that one instance, I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, it really does. You have to kind of be really good at cleaning up the dog vomit. So that's crazy. I love the way you take all this and you put it into that little moment, just to kind of make the point that works. That works for a lot of guys, I'll bet. Yeah, good deal. So you do a lot of speaking and the book is coming at some point, and you're hoping for your year anniversary.
That's a bit aggressive. It's the first book I've ever written. So I have a coach helping me, which is kind of fun. And I need that, Sherpa. I need the book Sherpa to help guide me. And he's awesome. Um, and, like the 1,000 weeks, I put a stake out there and said, how about August 23rd, the anniversary of my cardiac arrest? And I already talked to my friend, Paul, whose home I had the cardiac arrest at, to say, hey, can I have a book launch party at your house
Oh,
this 20th? which I think could be really meaningful in a lot of ways to me personally, and to hit that milestone. So we'll at least do a party on that day, I think. Hopefully, my book is back from the printer, and we can have a formal book launch party on that day.
I'm sure you would forgive him if you said, "Look, you're not coming to my house again, man."
The caveat had to be he's in the process. Well, he's not in the process. He's an empty nester now, so he's thinking about selling his house.
Ah,
So he said, "Hey, man, you're welcome as long as I still own the place."
yeah. Just bring your own defibrillator and everything will be okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Um, just wow. Okay. Well, I guess you have to figure out what you have to do to be the best version of you to get that book done by that date.
It's the 5% rule.
Yeah,
42 to 72 minutes every day.
right on.
Um, so some days I don't. And I'm kind of like, well, that's not the best me. Um, but you got to prioritize stuff. And so I try to make it a goal every day to do that 42 to 72 minutes on the book.
That's great. Now, is the book
Yeah.
going to be, like sort of the story of what happened? Is it the mission and the movement to get people to change their thinking? Can you give us an idea of what the construct of the book is that we're all looking forward to?
Yeah. So for sure. Um, the goal of the book is to challenge people and inspire them to be the world's best version of themselves and to give them the tools to be able to do that. I do tell my story, as you might imagine,
I think you have to.
uh,
Yeah,
but way beyond the cardiac arrest, right? I talk about life lessons learned. What does it take to be a good teammate, right? Whether that's at work, with your family, with your friends. What does it take to be a good teammate? And lessons learned throughout my life of athletics and corporate world, um, and try and make it relatable in a fashion where there's key takeaways and tools and tangible things, a few of which we've talked about today. Um, and it's not just a book about me. It's a book about how to become the world's best version of yourself if you're willing to accept the challenge to do that and to take those pulse checks, right? Whether you're a doctor, a podcast host, a marketer, a salesperson, whatever your vocation is in life, um, you have the potential to do that. And I
it's
want people to be able to do that. And I think this book can challenge people in a positive way to take that risk, to make that leap, to have the courage to be able to do that.
love it. The now the book is going to be available on like Amazon and the regular sites to find books, I assume.
You bet.
And then
Yeah.
yeah, website also, or not yet, or
Yeah, so I have a website up that's betheworldsbest.com,
okay, makes
which
sense.
is cool.
Yeah.
I would say nobody had that yet. So that was one of the first things I did. So you can go to my website, the book will be on there. And, I have a lot of blogs and stories there now. And I'm starting to put up some of the tools and things like that. And if anyone's interested in having a speaker at their company event or group, you can contact me there. And I'm sure you'll have in the show notes my email and that type of stuff as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. I'll make sure I get all that after we, get off the air here,
Yeah.
so that I can put it in there. But yeah, for sure. Let me, as we kind of, wrap this together, for the sake of time, let me put it to you because to say that you unpacked a lot here is an understatement, of course. Um, if there's anything that I forgot to ask you about, or if there's anything that is still something you want to make sure you get across. I know you mentioned something earlier, that you might want to sort of restate, and that'd be okay too. If it takes two or three items for you, that's all right because the last few minutes here are all for you. The floor is yours. Give us any of that stuff that I mentioned, or even if you just have a leave behind, some a nugget you want to, drop for everybody on your way out. Uh, the floor is yours, sir.
Attitude of gratitude today. Simple thing to do. Make it genuine, make it in your own words. Thank you. I appreciate you. That was great. It'll change your world and make you happier and those around you, and it will be reflected back at you. You can start that today. That's easy. Think about what's important. The 5% rule. What am I going to spend that time on? Uh, you know, what does the world's best version of yourself look like? What do you want that to be, and how are you going to do that? Those are important things to do. And so those would be my takeaways for people. If people want to contact me, my email is sig@betheworldsbest.com. I'm on LinkedIn as Sig Muller and also Be the World's Best. You can follow or connect with me there. That'd be great. And check out the website.
Love it. Thank you for all that. The founder of the Be the World's Best movement and mission here. I'm going to keep calling it a movement. I
I love it.
don't, I'm
I love it.
trying.
Love it.
Sig Muller. Sig, thank you for coming on the show today, sharing everything that you have with everybody, and leaving that message of hope for
Yeah.
everybody on your way out the door. It means a lot, and I'm sure everybody got a lot out of this today.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Rory, for the Power of Man podcast. You make such a difference. You are the world's best. Appreciate it.
Thanks. I thought maybe I was going to get out of that one, but all right. Thank you, sir. Folks, it's been another episode of the Power Man podcast. And the reason that we bring unbelievable men like this on and people who have overcome so much is because if people like Sig can do it, if I can overcome what I have, you know what? So can you. There's hope everywhere if you just look for it. You have worth, you have value, and you matter. All that's left is for you to believe it. Until next time.